for the truth in what I do. And that can be in all spectrums of human life. So whether it's fashion, whether it's reportage at the tip of the spear of any sort of human and civil rights movement, or whether it's photographing my two young children, it's all the same thing. I look for truth and honesty in the human condition. And if people like that, I shall continue making images.
And would you say then that you're a bit of an anomaly, or, you know, in fashion photography, for example, are there many black male photographers?
There are many black male photographers that shoot photographs that are certainly suitable for the fashion industry, but for them to get to the higher echelons of it is more about access. You know, they need people like Edward in all the publications to open the door for them. There is a lot of talent that always has been, and there always will be. It's just that only now the opportunities are beginning to be open to us.
It is interesting that, you know, I mentioned the fact that it was, you know, who he hired to put on the shoot, predominantly, you know, black people involved. Sandra Oh, the actress from Killing Eve, that when she worked in the UK filming Killing Eve, she found it very unusual that he was the only kind of ethnic minority on the set, because everybody behind the scenes as well was predominantly white. I mean, he's done a great thing here. So what needs to change for people? As you say, the talent's there, clearly, but access is what's important. What needs to change so that the next Miss Anne Harriman can come through?
I've just walked through the door, and I'm turning back with my hand out to pull as many people as I can do into this room of opportunity. And, you know, major corporations in and outside of fashion, even in the industry you're in, can look into their HR policy, can look into the senior management, and diversify it. And no one is asking for handouts. I'm talking about looking for talent that deserves to be seen and heard. That's all. And if it's hiring from specific universities and schools, then you're always going to get the same sorts of people. So I think the human resources recruitment strategy of a lot of businesses needs to change. The senior management of a lot of businesses needs to change. And then you'll see the trickle-down effect of the talent, without question, out there.
Can I just say that photograph of Marcus Rashford and Adoa is absolutely fantastic. I mean, let's look at Marcus. He's got such a great expression on his face, hasn't he? Where did you shoot this?
That was in Manchester. I photographed Marcus in his garden, and he is a great example of what empathy truly means. This man earns a fortune at the zenith of his own sport, yet he cares enough to fight for the rights of children that are literally starving on the poverty line. If that isn't an example of what a young man that is British should be and can be, I don't know what is. So it was a pleasure being in his company.
And in many ways, that was nothing to do with race, was it? As you say, the point of this article is putting together activists from around the globe who are trying to change matters. Marcus Rashford, by speaking up in the way that he did, he changed, well, there were thousands of children all over this country who would have gone hungry in the summer holidays who weren't hungry because of him.
Absolutely. All children from all races. I mean, the social economics of it would mean that a lot of those children would have been from, you know, a diverse background. But the reality is, you know, poverty is brutal, and it affects the young most. And for him to you know, but it's because he's had that experience himself. He's had that lived experience. And once you have that, you know what that means. You know, when you're little and you cannot, you know, you may not have a supper. You know, and I just meeting him and knowing that he's done that, using that huge platform he has, of course it should be on the cover of British Vogue, and it's had a huge response, rightly so.
When do you think we will reach the point then, beyond the one we're at now, where you are the first black man to have this honour of being a photographer to shoot this front page photo, but how soon do you think, how long will it take, rather, for us to just say, well, this is normal? This is so normal that we don't even have to talk about it.
It can be as fast as having everyone with a platform like your good self and all of your contemporaries talking about this. and speaking to the people that hire you, and the people that hire you about let's make this happen. You know, that's what using the opportunities you have to make this conversation never lose the oxygen. You know, we've planted the seeds. Let's water this plant and let it grow. I certainly will not be stopping, and I don't think a lot of my sphere of influence will be looking backwards. We're looking forward, and we will force change.
Congratulations, Miss Anne. Great to have you on the programme. Miss Anne Harriman, then, first black man to photograph the front cover of Vogue, which I have in my hand, Tony, because I subscribe to Vogue.
We'll get you.
Handy, we're doing this story today. Got it a couple of days ago. On the shelves, in the shops.
Yeah, very nice. We haven't mentioned actually what you were doing earlier on. But next time we talk about the hot weather after 5, we'll mention what you were doing today, which I'm very jealous about. In the meantime, just before we move on, I mentioned that local lockdown in Preston that's been placed in the last few moments. Just a little bit more information on that. The local authority there in Preston have asked the government to include the town on the list, so people should not be gathering with other households anywhere indoors. It's similar to what's in place in West Yorkshire and parts of East Lancashire as well, but Preston's been added to the list. If you're in Preston, how does that affect you this weekend? What do you make of it? Did you know it was coming? Did you expect it? Do get in touch, 85058. Now, away from the virus, I mentioned at the start of the show, there's a brilliant video doing the rounds at the moment. It's led to Phil Collins trending, of all things. 2 young American teenagers are listening to one of his songs for the very first time. It's In the Air Tonight. It's had more than 2.5 million views. This is Tim and Fred. They're listening to it, and just wait for their reaction when he gets to that famous bit.
Yeah. Okay, Belly. Yeah.
Kom je in het donorregister met geen bezwaar tegen orgaandonatie? Weet je het al? Vul dan je keuze in op donorregister.nl.
Ja, je kan de tube tandpasta 20 keer oprollen en erin knijpen alsof je leven ervan afhangt. Of je zorgt voor een voorraadje tandpasta. Toch best handig. Daarom nu in de drogisterij van bol.com mondverzorging van onder andere Oral-B, Parodontax en Colgate met tot wel 50% korting op de adviesprijs. Bekijk alle deals in de app of ga naar bol.com.
Succesvol. Jouw eigen klusbedrijf starten als klussenier. Check klussenier.nl en ga voor de vrijheid van ondernemen en de zekerheid van jouw droomstart.
Elke vrijdag vier je het weekend met de Borrel Top 3. Met welke liedjes vier jij de borrel? Geef je op via de 100% NL-site en maak kans op een Maza borrelpakket. Lekker genieten doe je met de Borrel Top 3 en Maza.
Of je nu gaat voor de met het hele gezin op reisauto, de deze zomer gaan we klussen of verhuizenbus, of het weekendje weg met zijn tweeënwagentje. Europcar heeft altijd een perfecte huurauto voor jou. Reis veilig naar elke bestemming. Reserveer nu op europcar.nl.
Of je nu een broodje smeert met heerlijke hummus, een borrelhapje maakt met een lekkere spread of bewust kookt met onze falafel en hummus. Lekker genieten doe je met Maza. Nu bij Dekamarkt 2 voor €2,50.
Het ene moment zet je ze voor het eerst op een skateboard.
Kun je met filmen?
En het andere moment vliegen ze door de halfpipe. Gelukkig hoef je met unlimited data en bellen geen moment te missen. Check t-mobile.nl/unlimited of ga naar jouw T-Mobile shop. En met Unlimited van T-Mobile ben je ook nog eens helemaal 5G ready. Check t-mobile.nl/5G. Ontdek de nieuwe Purol Green producten. Purol Green brengt je onzuivere huid terug in balans. Exclusief bij Ethos. Purol Green, puur voor je huid, zuiver voor je gezicht. Ook als ondernemer hoef je geen enkele deal te missen met Unlimited voor ondernemers. Switch eenvoudig via t-mobile.nl/.
De vrijdag
straks zijn vakantiehuis? Ja, vanavond om 7 uur weet je het. Want bij Lucky Day maak je elke dag al met €1,50 kans op €450.000. Lucky Day, spel van Nederlandse Loterij. Speel bewust 18+. Jouw nieuwe tweezitsbank voor €299? Dat is bijna 60% korting. Dus voor voordeals, nu naar
World of Dino's is de grootste dino-expo van Europa. Het ultieme uitje voor het hele gezin tijdens de zomervakantie. Sta oog in oog met meer dan 80 levensechte en bewegende dino's. Educatief en super spannend. Vanaf 4 juli tot en met 30 augustus in de jaarbeurs. Tickets worldofdinos.nl.
Kom nu naar onze megastore en ontdek jouw voordeel.
Ze zijn altijd weer evenveel eisend.
Ze wilde niet een simpel jurkie, nee, ze wilde hoepels, glitters, paillettes, heel de shebang.
Er is altijd weer keuzestress.
Ze vonden het helemaal niks.
En het komt gelukkig ook altijd weer goed.
Liefde wordt gevierd, we hebben de allermooiste bruidsjurk. Ja, ik ben heel blij.
Terug zoals je gewend bent. Het nieuwe seizoen van Say Yes to the Dress Benelux. Dinsdag 8:30 bij TLC.
Ja, ik vind dat toch heerlijk!
Ben jij een echte Big Mac fan? Dan hebben we een big surprise. Want de originele Big Mac saus is tijdelijk ook los te bestellen. Nu kun je dus alles met je favoriete saus eten. Daar word je toch happy van? Nu bij McDonald's.
Kijk Say Yes to the Dress Benelux alvast vooruit op dplay.nl.
Ja,
Zoek je een trendy en compacte auto waarmee je geruisloos en toch sportief door het leven kunt? Kies milieubewust en ervaar 100% elektrisch rijplezier met Smart. Geniet nu van uitzonderlijk hoge kortingen op een Smart op voorraad. Op is op. Smart Deal, toch? Bezoek snel jouw Mercedes-Benz dealer of bekijk de electric deals op smartopvoorraad.nl.
Smart.
Maak ruimte voor de zomer. Alleen deze week bij Karwei, maar liefst 25% korting op alle schuttingen en tuinhout. Ga naar de Karwei bij jou in de buurt of shop op karwei.nl.
100% NL.
De beste muziek van Nederland.
Het ANP-nieuws van 6 uur.
Ik ben Ingrid Anne Broersen. Goedenavond. Nederland trekt nog eens €3 miljoen uit voor noodhulp aan Libanon na de zware explosie in Beirut. Het geld is bedoeld voor acute zaken zoals water, voedsel en onderdak. Eerder gaf het kabinet 1 miljoen aan het Libanese Rode Kruis. Het gaat onder andere naar bloedbanken en ambulances. Nu de GGD in Amsterdam niet meer alle contacten van mensen met corona kan nabellen, moeten mensen dat zelf doen. Ze krijgen daarvoor een instructie. De NOS meldt dat ook de GGD in Rotterdam het niet meer aan kan door de vele besmettingen en ook daar wordt het bron- en contactonderzoek beperkt. Een Rotterdamse douaneambtenaar is veroordeeld tot 9 jaar cel voor het doorlaten van 1500 kilo cocaïne. Het spul zat verstopt in een container geladen met mango's uit Brazilië en die container liet hij expres buiten de controle. Het OM had 12 jaar geëist omdat de douanier vaker containers zou hebben doorgelaten. Voor 9 departementen in Frankrijk is vanwege de hitte code rood afgegeven. Ook voor Parijs, waar het vandaag 36 graden werd. Ook voor delen in België geldt de komende dagen code rood, onder meer voor de provincie Antwerpen. Daarom wordt daar de corona-avondklok losgelaten, zodat mensen 's nachts de straat op kunnen voor verkoeling. En dan nog het weer van Weer Online. Morgen wordt het nog iets warmer dan vandaag en daarom geldt in provincies in het zuiden en oosten van het land code oranje. In Limburg kan het lokaal 38 graden worden. En tot zover het nieuws op 100% NL.
Ingrid, Anne Broersen, dankjewel. Het 100% NL verkeer van Flitsmeister dan. En de files waar je 15 minuten of langer vaststaat, dat zijn er 2. Op de A9 Amstelveen-Alkmaar voor Herugewaard, 23 minuten. En de tweede staat op de A27 Breda-Gorinchem voor Werkendam, 24 minuten extra. En goed nieuws, zal weinig verrassend zijn. Er staan geen flitsers, want ja, oma Gent ligt ook gewoon aan het strand.
De verkeersinformatie werd mede mogelijk gemaakt door Reddy Keukens. Zoek je een Duitse kwaliteitskeuken met aanmerkapparatuur zonder vage kortingsacties? Kies dan voor een Reddy Keuken met een scherpe netto prijs. Kijk voor meer informatie op reddy.nl of kom langs in de showroom.
Reddy, goed voor elkaar.
Het is een heerlijke zomer vol zonnige aanbiedingen bij Lidl. Met deze week Mals mager runder gehakt. 2 pakken van 500 gram voor maar €6. Hollandse blauwe bessen, 500 gram voor maar €3,69. En Hollandse zoete Roma tomaatjes, 400 gram voor maar €1,49. Geniet van de zomer met Lidl. De hoogste kwaliteit voor de laagste prijs.
Met het Delta Flex pakket bepaal jij wat je aanzet. Dat is internet, tv en bellen zoals jij het wilt. En wil je sneller internet of even wat minder zenders? Je past het gemakkelijk aan zonder extra kosten. Nu de eerste 6 maanden met een gratis upgrade. Daarmee ervaar je zelf het supersnelle internet en alle 120 zenders. Kijk op delta.nl voor de beschikbaarheid op jouw adres.
Renault introduceert, speciaal voor ZZP'ers en MKB'ers, de nieuwe Renault Trafiek Business. Deze rijk uitgeruste bus rijdt je al vanaf €219 bijtelling per maand. Ook leverbaar als dubbele cabine en met EDC-automaat. Ontdek alle businessmodellen op Renault.nl.
Dit programma wordt mede mogelijk gemaakt door Kikkoman sojasaus. Daarmee maak je al je marinades, dips en sauzen nog lekkerder. 100% NL bezorgt jou het leukste uitje van de zomer.
Met deze week tickets voor Rolf Sanchez bij de Amsterdamse Zomer.
100% NL.
De beste muziek van Nederland.
Stefan Jacobs.
En binnen het uur gaan ze eruit. Hè. Dus wil je er kans op maken? Rolf Sanchez live bij de Amsterdamse Zomer. Stuur je naam door met de 100% NL app.
100% NL. Ze zegt maar als je gaat, vergeet me niet. Ik moet lachen en zeg zeker niet. Ik ben weg van jou. Ze nemen mij nooit weg van jou.
Země se vzpamatovává z úterního ničivého výbuchu v přístavu. 2 páry výtahů propojené spojovací chodbou by měly od léta příštího roku vozit cestující z Karlova náměstí do stejnojmenné stanice metra na lince B. Stát se to podle původních plánů mělo už letos. Práce na stavbě ale nespomalila pandemie, nýbrž složité podloží v místě náměstí. Výtahy spojí metro z ulice Václavská. Organizátoři filmového festivalu v Portlandu odstranili z letošního programu promítání filmu Policajt ze školky s Arnoldem Schwarzeneggerem v hlavní roli. Reagovali tím na kritiku lidí, podle kterých snímek z 90. let podporuje tzv. School to Prison Pipeline. Tento termín znamená, že policejní zasahování ve školách způsobuje, že mnoho školáků, kteří se dopustí i menších přestupků, nakonec skončí ve vězení. Víc už se do zpráv nevejde. Teď si poslechněte AC/DC na rádiu Beat.
Radio Beat. Classic rock.
Action. 28 at Ofton to 29 at Chesterfield is where the accident is. One lane closed, 10 miles of traffic backing up though, 40-minute delays. The M11 southbound junction 5 at Loughton, a breakdown of one of the lanes. The M25 clockwise, a breakdown at 26 Waltham Abbey, another one at 24 at Potters Bar as well, so that's just behind it with one lane closed. Anti-clockwise queues along the same stretch at junction 23 at South Mims. Again, we had an overturned lorry, so an incident there. Queues back to Potters Bar. Anti-clockwise queues towards the Dartford Tunnel still there. Various incidents, lots of breakdowns today. Vehicles are overheating. Queues backing up to junction 3 at the Swanley interchange, from 2 at the Darrant interchange after a broken down lorry, which is still in one of the lanes. Also long queues for you on the M5, Bristol to Somerset, and it's still down from junction 16 to junction 20 at Clevedon. Order matching to 5 Light Drive.
Thank you very much, Orna. Ellie's here. Ellie, I know you're going to give us the score, but I just looked up at the screen and one of the batsmen was doing a backward somersault after being nearly hit on the head. It's such a... Wow. I mean, the you know, was it Jofra Archer? I didn't see
it. It was Jofra Archer, yeah. It was Azhar Ali who ended up almost doing a backward roll, trying to get out of the way of a Jofra Archer bounce, which just kind of skimmed the top of his helmet, but he managed to fall backwards and out of the way and just fell on his backside. But yeah, it's pretty rough out there. This game of cricket. Who'd play at A? Pakistan 48 for 2. They've extended their lead to 155 runs in their second innings. Babar Azam is on 5 and Azhar Ali is on 17. Chris Wokes has just come on and he's taken a wicket in his first over, and it's Babar Azam. That is a huge wicket for England because we said in the first innings what a dangerous player he is, what a stylish player he is. He got 69 in the first innings for Pakistan, but he's out for 5, so that is an important breakthrough for England. Pakistan are 48 for 3 and they lead by 155 runs.
Cheers, Ellie. Thank you. We'll certainly keep you up to date. That is getting very exciting, isn't it? So a lot to come in the cricket. Just very quickly, Claire, we were having the Phil Collins Loving. I don't know if it was you or Anna recommended Don't Lose My Number. Was it Anna who said it was on a...
I think it was,
a jogging
yeah.
list. Steve's been on it. So just listen to it. It starts with a lot of promise, but ultimately writes checks which failed to clear. 2 out of 5 won't listen again. So there it is. Good job, Anna's on holiday.
Gosh.
Right, 5:08.
Scott Mills and Chris Stark.
In September 2013, a live broadcast by McCoy went viral after he inadvertently picked up a refill pack of A4 printer paper instead of his iPad while presenting to camera.
Sometimes, if it was relatively quiet, we'd wind each other up and I would get a piece of paper and put it over the auto cue just before she was supposed to read it. I hadn't realized that as I was asking for some paper to do this childish, pathetic and unprofessional trick, that actually it was my turn to read the next story.
Scott Mills and Chris Stark.
Saturday morning from 9.
5 Live is digital.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
Good afternoon, Claire and Tony with you on Drive. We heard in the news, didn't we, those conflicting statistics about coronavirus in the UK. What is the actual R rate at the moment? How significant is it? And how far can we believe those rates of infection within households? There are those who are saying that the sample is too small. One thing for sure this afternoon, if you live in Preston, you are now under, well, you will be from midnight tonight, you're under new restrictions. You can't visit each other in different households. It's the rule that's affected a lot, the swathe of northern England, really, Greater Manchester, West Yorkshire, East Lancashire, now extended to Preston. If you're in Preston, how does that affect you? 85058. Another big issue surrounding coronavirus is this notion of should you go on holiday or not. Lots of people were found left stranded in Spain, weren't they, when the air bridge was called off overnight. Now it's Belgium, Andorra, the Bahamas. People coming back from those places will have to self-isolate for 14 days from tomorrow, and the government's reaffirmed that it won't hesitate to add other countries to the list. It's led to a lot of speculation, particularly about France. The Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, says anyone planning a holiday should plan carefully before going anywhere abroad.
We keep everything under constant review, but what would I say to people? That we're dealing with a global pandemic, and given that, it does mean that there's a risk to travel, and travel can be disrupted, so people need to be mindful of that. I know it's frustrating, but it's right that we keep things under review, and if we think that we can improve our health security by making these changes, of course it's the right thing for us to do so.
Of course, as we've heard from some listeners today, a lot of people switched destinations from Spain to France, thinking that would be the safer option, but there's been a surge in cases in France, so that is now under the microscope. Gemma's on the line from Bolton.
It and check it all the time, but it's on the news all the time, and my mum helpfully texts me every time she reads something and sent me an email this morning saying, oh sorry, I've seen another article, and you're just trying to work out what to do for the best. We booked this holiday last August, having come home from a brilliant holiday in France, and rebooked to go to the same place slightly later in the year because it was the school holidays were a bit different. And so it's always been booked, so for us it wasn't something that we've done during lockdown, and we just hope that things are getting back to normal and we'll be able to go, and as we get closer, we are desperate for the holiday. We do holiday in the UK, but we've had this one booked. We're really looking forward to it. I'm at the point I'm quite organised, and I start packing and I start planning the food that we're going to take with us, and
that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and but what do we do, and will it change? And my husband said to me last night, we could have the van packed, we could be ready to go, and then get the notification that we can't, because for us, if there's no quarantine, we'll be going. We think that it's as low risk as going anywhere else. It's about, for me, it's very much about how we look after ourselves and how we social distance. We will be in a static caravan on a quiet site, mostly in our own company.
So Gemma, at the moment, in your head, are you going?
Unless the quarantine rules come in, yes, we're going.
I'm just looking at some of the details here for you. You've got two girls, 8 and 5, so they'll be really excited, which is great. I know from speaking to another colleague, not Claire, who's thinking of who is going to France, that they've booked a cabin on. I noticed you're going in a cabin on the ferry, but the ferry company have already contacted them to say there are no cabins. You've now got to keep in an armchair due to self-isolation rules. So it's changing all the time.
Yeah, the notifications we've had from the ferry so far, we've got a cabin booked, and it's saying they've got a kind of 12-point guide about how they're keeping COVID safe, and we've got a cabin, and they've asked us to spend as much time as possible in the cabin, and said that the food options will be limited, but we're doing an overnight ferry, so we would be in the cabin anyway. and nobody's allowed on without a cabin or a seat reservation to minimise that risk.
I don't know your family circumstances. If the air bridges or whatever bridge is cancelled and quarantine's necessary when you come back, are you capable of doing that? Can you afford to do that?
It will be tricky. The girls would miss school, but then they've missed a lot of school this year anyway, because we come back just as school term opens again, and I'm keen for them to get back to school. I've been working from home, so arguably I could work from home under quarantine, under self-isolation, as I have been doing when it's just been the new normal of lockdown. But whether work would perceive it in the same way, I'm not sure. My husband has been going into work, could do some from home. Again, I'm not sure what would happen if they imposed we've literally been through every different option, and we've said, well, what if they announced quarantine when we were already there, which is what's happened to a number of people in Spain, and we're going for 2 weeks. Would we come back a week earlier and have a week of our holiday as part of the quarantine? And it's the fact that we don't know that makes it really difficult.
There'll be people listening to this, and they often text the show when we talk about things like this, saying, look, is this really the most important thing in the world, a holiday, when we're in the middle of a pandemic? However, for your mental health, for your family's well-being, it is important to you. So on that basis, Claire, I know you're kind of in this situation, you told us already. Is there any stress coping mechanisms that you're using you can pass on to Gemma, or do you just ignore it till the day you're travelling?
Well, I don't think you can ignore it. I'm with Gemma, really, that, from our point of view, we were going back somewhere that was very remote, that we would literally be kind of living the life we're living in the UK, but with a change of scene. We were going to drive there like Gemma is, all of that. And that's supposed to be a kind of, stress reliever, go somewhere different, change of scene. We've all been kind of locked in our homes for so long, and coming out a bit now. But the stress of what we're having to deal with now, Gemma, is kind of counterproductive for the actual holiday, isn't it? I'm finding, because I'm thinking, you know what, I might make the decision, to say, let's not do it, or because it's waiting. I mean, in a way, I remember listening to 5 Live on that Saturday night a couple of weeks back, when they made the announcement about Spain, and I was in the kitchen thinking, my goodness, for the people who are there, that is very problematic. And I know with Belgium, they're giving, I think they give you 72 or 48 hours to get back. But when you think about it, if everybody then drives to the Eurotunnel in Calais, you're not going to get back under the wire to get back in and avoid a quarantine lockdown. So I think it's unhelpful, maybe. I don't know. You could say it's unavoidable, but on the one hand, the government encourages us to go out and do things and spend money and book holidays, and then says, well, with days to go, we're not sure you can go on it. And I think you would agree, Gemma, that causes a lot of stress.
It does, and the girls are 5 and 8. They're dead excited about it. They're looking forward to it, but we just keep saying if we go to France. And they say, when we go to France, can we do this? And we say, well, if. And again, because we've been there before, they know what they're expecting. There's things that they're looking forward to. We're actually there for one of the 2 weeks that we're there is the French schools are all back, so we expect the resort to be even quieter. So you kind of think you're doing the right thing. Last night was the first night that we went, this decision might be taken out of our hands. Let's look at the alternatives. So we've got 2 weeks booked off work. We are desperate for that break. We've worked all the way through lockdown. We've done the homeschooling. We've had all that. Difficult, and everybody's had different times, and everybody's had a difficult time for different reasons. We're ready for that change of scenery. We want that time together with the girls that's not in our 4 walls that we've been in, that's somewhere different. We started looking last night for the alternatives in the UK. There aren't a lot. It's either extortionately expensive or it's on a campsite, but you can't. You've got to take your own toilet facilities with you, and it's just it takes the joy out of it. And I know in the terms of against a global pandemic, it's not the most important thing in the world, but for us in our little world, it is quite important. And for the girls,
people will appreciate that, Gemma. Look, I mean, I can't offer any advice other than for your own mental health. You're going on the 21st, I believe, so that's 14 days away. I'd just try and take your mind off it, because anything can happen in 14 days. So if you worry from day to day, you'll be in a right state by the time you go. So maybe give it a week and then reassess. But look, whatever happens, I hope you get there, Gemma, because for the sake of the planet, I hope we can all travel around. But good to speak to you, and good luck, and hope the girls have a happy summer, whatever happens.
Oh, thanks, Tony. Thanks, Claire.
Cheers,
good
Gemma.
luck to Claire as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Gemma.
Thanks, bye.
Gemma there in Bolton. If you're facing a similar dilemma, what decisions have you come to? A lot of people texting the programme to say they booked here, there and everywhere and had to change and kind of been chasing their their holidays. Cancelled a trip, says Johnny Norwich, cancelled a trip to Japan in May. Then I booked to go to Spain. Had to cancel 2 days later due to the travel ban. Now booked flight to Italy, but are going to wait until the last minute to book hotels. That's the problem, isn't it?
James on the M6. Is it the M6 or the M5? I'm sorry, James. He says, hi, Tony and Claire. Can someone please explain to me the science behind these quarantine rules? The ONS released figures stating that last week there were 28,000 new cases here in the UK, yet Portugal is on the quarantine list despite only having 700 new cases last week. Even allowing for population difference, that means you are 7 times more likely to become infected here than Portugal. Seems a little bit of an overkill to me. That is James. Thanks for getting in touch. James, you can do 85058.
Yeah, thank you. Just very quick as well, we mentioned earlier we had that location scout, and we mentioned that I'm a Celebrity is going to be in the UK this year, so we were just asking for tips on where you go that's hell on earth. And this isn't... I just wondered if anyone had volunteered their property or had their property used in the programme. This is quite good. Sarah says, my family home was used as the main house in the famous Sunday evening drama Howard's Way. Do you remember that Howard's Way?
Yachting. Was it yachting? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah. They chose our village of Old Burleston. It was the central location. My family and I were used as extras. Eventually, they mocked up the interior in the Pebble Mill Studios in Birmingham and only used our house and garden for exterior conservatory shots. It was a happy time, but it's made me feel very old writing this. Great show. Thank you. That's from Sarah. If you've been in a similar position, thank you very much. We're going to speak later on about nude sprinting. Well, I think we have a bit of an authority on nude sprinting, so that's something we can all look forward to. Right, it is coming around to 5:20, Andre.
Yeah, we're going to look at the cricket now, though. It is day 3 of the first test, England v Pakistan at Old Trafford. Abid Mahmood has gone. Ellie, what's the latest you can give us?
Well, the latest score here is 58 for 3 is the Pakistan score at the moment. So the lead is 165 runs, 59 for 3. In fact, it goes to 166 runs. And we're watching Ashad Shafiq and Azhar Ali, the captain, out there in the middle at the moment. Chris Woakes has been bowling pretty well, just getting some interesting lines, getting the batsmen playing at it. We're watching Dom Bess, the spinner, from the other end as well. Alongside me is Azhar Mahmood, former Surrey batsman and bowler and former Pakistan bowling coach. And I wanted to talk to you, Azhar, about the Pakistan bowling today, because we saw a morning of seam bowling. Mohammad Abbas, absolutely brilliant as always. We saw Nazim Shah, the really exciting young fast bowler. England survived that with the loss of 1 wicket. Then in the afternoon they were skittled out by the leg spinners. So it's been a fascinating day to watch the way Pakistan bowl.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating day, and I thought Pakistan seamer set the tone for the rest of the day. I thought Abbas was brilliant with his spell change. We saw some swing, pace, bounce, and then Naseem Shah. They didn't give anything away, and allowed spinner to come and put pressure on him, and Yasir was absolutely brilliant again. Once again got 4 wickets, and then we haven't seen Shadab much in this game. In first inning, we will see more and more looking at the pitch, because the ball is turning and bouncing here. The pitch is dry, so they were really good. They got 6 wickets between them, a spinner. So I would like to see more in the second inning. But here, I think this partnership is very crucial for Pakistan, because ball is turning and spinning. Yes, Shadab got runs in the last innings, but inexperienced batting lineup. If you see, Mohammad Ridwan is there, and then Tail. So this partnership is very important for Pakistan point of view.
Well, particularly having lost Babar Azam, who is such a key batsman for them, and he was out so cheaply. Chris Woakes getting him for 5. Ben Stokes taking the catch. Ben Stokes has missed a couple of catches actually, but there's some speculation that if needed, he might bowl for England, because we saw him in between the innings having a little bit of a warm-up. Do you think that England might turn to him?
If he's fit and England they need something special, and they will throw the ball to Ben Stokes, because he always does something special with the ball. Whenever he comes to bowl, he makes things happen. And I thought right now I don't think so they will need that, because one end spinner will go from the one end, and you can rotate your fast bowler from the other end and save him for the next test match.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a key game-changing player, isn't he? We've got drinks at the moment. I wonder what you think of Jofra Archer. Tony in the studio was picking up on the fact that he had Azhar Ali on his backside at one point, almost doing a backward roll. What do you make of him? I don't know if you've seen him bowling for England before, in real life, as it were.
No, I played against him as well. He's a brilliant bowler, brilliant find. I'm not sure because I want to see him bowling high 80s, touching 90 miles an hour. That's why you're in the team and you are X factor. So we saw here, he bowled a couple of spells where he bowled really quick, bouncers and everything. But as a fast bowler, I want to see a bit more hostile bowling from him.
Yeah, we saw that particularly hostile delivery that, as we said, that had Azhar on his backside. But from an England point of view, the lead at the moment, the Pakistan lead is 170 runs. What do you think is a realistic target for England to chase, batting fourth on a pitch, as we said, which is getting drier, and we saw what the spinners did this morning or this afternoon after lunch?
It's a tough question, like we witnessed one of the great innings from Ben Stokes during the Ashes series, so anything can happen in cricket. But I think on looking at the pitch and everything, anything 280, 290 will be tough on this pitch, but you never know if one partnership and suddenly you see the shoulder drops and someone is not bowling well, or a couple of injuries here and there, anything can happen in cricket. I think for Pakistan point of view, they need to score another, I think the lead...
Well, the lead is 170 at the moment.
170. Another 120 odd runs they definitely need.
To feel comfortable.
Feel comfortable and give their bowling something to play with, because we know England got understand Buttler is not getting runs, but he's a match changer. Ben Stokes, Joe Root, and they got players who can change the game in no time.
Well, look, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. I have to say that Azhar has been constantly on TV and radio commentary, guys, so I hope you realise how lucky you are to have him. We just had to dash and get him a cup of tea because he's been talking all day, but it's been a really intriguing day. And we're watching Pakistan at the moment batting in their second innings at 63 for 3, and the lead, as we said, is 170 runs. And we've just come to the end of the drinks break. And Test Match Special, 5 Live Sports Extra, just to give that a plug, and also the TV highlights later on this evening on BBC Two as well.
Cheers, Ellie, thank you. Back with you very shortly. Lots to get our heads around with coronavirus today, particularly this new local lockdown, or local restrictions, should we say, in the city of Preston. From midnight tonight, people aren't allowed to visit each other in their households. It's a similar ban to we've seen in Greater Manchester, East Lancashire, West Yorkshire. If you're in Preston, how do you feel about that? How does it affect you this weekend? 85058 at BBC 5 Live. And Claire, lots of people texting the programme about this dilemma of travelling abroad. This one says, booked a week in France at the end of August. We're towing our caravan to an area of France with a very low infection rate. We're getting an overnight ferry there and back. We'll roll onto the ferry up to a cabin, dock the next morning, then drive to Le Mans, I think it's called, where we will stay in our van for the week, then return the same way. It makes no sense for the whole of France to be covered in quarantine rules. I'm safer doing this trip than I am, for example, says this texter, going to Luton.
Yeah, indeed. This text, it's Helen, afternoon Helen, says, we have driven from Newcastle to Bournemouth for a short break with our 2 teenage daughters. Beaches were rammed and signs up urging people to go home as it's too busy, taking the advice, being safe, and now on the 6-hour drive home again. No social distancing down there, says Helen. Like your caller who is concerned about not going to France, my husband and I have also worked through the pandemic, both being mental health nurses. And clearly, Helen, well deserved, just needing a little bit of time off. So getting away and staying safe. Let us know whether you are now in two minds about going to Europe, especially if you're booking, if you already booked to go to France. 85058.
6 hours, yeah, coming home's not good. Just finally, just on that, before we move on, Mark in Hersham says, holiday to France. I'm going at 4 a.m. on Sunday. I'm closely listening to the news, hoping that we can get on the Eurotunnel before France is put back, says Mark, on the naughty list. Bit of a roller coaster for us and the family we're travelling with. We've been booked since February. Right, yeah, as Claire said, if you want to get in touch with the programme, 85058 at BBC 5 Live, 27 past 5.
It's been lovely weather today, hasn't it? But there are fears this weekend's sunny weather, more is on the way, could mean more litter at green spaces and beaches across the UK. Everywhere from local parks to national parks have been seen surging visitor numbers and a huge rise, sadly, in rubbish and antisocial behaviour. Rowan Bridge has been looking at the problem and spent last night at perhaps the country's most unlikely litter pick. Rowan, you stayed somewhere beautiful, but not very beautiful behaviour by the sounds of things. Where were you?
Yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. I was in Kirby on Merseyside at the most unusual litter pick I have ever been, but we'll save that for a moment. Just in terms of the problem itself, I mean, as you say, they are expecting sunny weather this weekend, and that is expected to cause yet more grief on the issue of litter. I was talking to one of the people who deals with the national parks, the likes of the Peak District, the Lake District, and it is a massive problem for them even at the moment. They say they are facing a tsunami of litter. Not just litter itself, which is where people take their tents and go and pitch them up somewhere in the national park where the bylaws don't allow them to. So that can be on things like archaeological digs or sites of special scientific interest, and they are causing havoc, so much so that they had to close one part of one of the national parks because they removed 70 caravans and campsites that were there illegally in one day.
Goodness me. What about local parks where we all live then?
Yeah, I mean, the problem, so that's national parks, but local parks down your street, you will see the same sorts of issues. Keep Britain Tidy did a survey. They found that half of the parks in Britain had to pull in extra resources to deal with the problem of litter. I'll give you a couple of examples. Hartsmead Borough Council, that's the area around Watford. So they are dealing with unprecedented levels of litter and waste and playground vandalism. In Cheltenham, which is frankly quite genteel, they've been working with the police to deal with rubbish, urinating in public, noise nuisance, and so the list goes on and on and on. As I was saying, this is the bit you've been waiting for. One person on Merseyside, though, this guy is on a singular mission to improve the litter issue in Liverpool postcodes. His name is Mark Cowell, and he doesn't do litter picking like anybody I've ever met before, as I found out when I met him at Kirby last night. This has got to be the loudest and probably the most fun litter pick I think I have ever seen. As you can probably hear, there is a DJ playing tunes with amplifiers strapped to the back of a sort of minivan that is driving along. And then you've got 50 or so people, all with black bin liners and litter picking sticks, picking up the rubbish lying on the streets, putting in those bin bags to make sure it's properly disposed of. And they're all dancing and having a very good time at the same time.
And each one of you here tonight should be proud of yourself, so keep coming along, keep having a good time, having a good time, all day, every day! My name's Mark Cowell, and today it's all to do with litter picking and setting an example to the younger generation right the way through the city of Liverpool. People think it's cool to throw litter, but we're trying to let people know it's not cool to throw litter. And we're going to make it cool to pick it up.
Tell me what you picked up so far this evening.
Lots of sea stumps, lots of sweet wrappers, a Macca's cup, quite a lot of all just rubbish that you find next to a kid.
What do you think about the scale of people's littering during lockdown?
It's ridiculous, there's just no point in it. If you take something out, you're just taking it back with you, surely. Like, if you're taking a bag of food out, you've got a bag there, put your rubbish in the bag and take it over, yeah. Doesn't happen.
Give me an idea of the scale of the stuff that you picked up.
I think one of the worst places we hit a park in Netherley only a couple of days ago, and we filled 30 bin bags off one field, alcohol bottles, cans, takeaway containers, crisp packets, all sorts of stuff. I think for years and years there's been a lack of respect, not just from the younger generation, but from people as a whole. And, you know, there's a lot of love for this city from a lot of people, and we want to set a good example and we want to be positive.
And what sort of reactions you get from people?
Well, you only have to look around here. Look, you've got the nursing home out over there. They're all having a party.
No, this is where we live. It shouldn't be a bin. It should be clean. Clean up after yourself. It's easily done, but what he's doing is bringing people together, making people smile, making people laugh at a time when people need it most. So, and that's it. You know, it is about the rubbish, but it's more so about the community and bringing people together. And what he's doing is amazing. That's why I'm here today with my own kids. No one's too good and too big and too cool to pick up litter. and that's what it's about.
How's this evening gone? Absolutely unbelievable. You've just been with us all the way through for an hour. We had the van out, the decks out, the DJ. Everyone's had an absolute scream, and we've been picking litter up on the way. Unbelievable.
What a guy. Remember his name. What a servant of the local community. Absolutely fantastic. He's Mark Cowell. He organised that litter pick in Kirby that Rowan went along to last night. Sounds like a right hoolie, doesn't it? Fantastic stuff. It's 33 minutes past 5.
On digital, BBC Sounds, smart speaker and online.
This is BBC Radio 5 Live.
The headlines then this afternoon on Drive. Stricter lockdown measures, which are already in place in parts of northern England, are coming back into force in Preston in Lancashire at midnight. Council officials had warned residents that they could face tougher rules because of a rise in coronavirus infections there. UN aid agencies are sending urgent support to hundreds of thousands of people in Beirut following Tuesday's explosion, which killed 154 people. They're warning of a humanitarian crisis in the city. The Lebanese president's rejected demands for an international investigation. The Unite unions accused British Airways of spiteful and despicable behaviour. That's after thousands of cabin crew were sent emails telling them whether or not they were being made redundant. The airline's cutting jobs to try to save money. And people are being advised to stay away from some beaches along the south coast of England as the heatwave attracts crowds, making social distancing impossible. People are being advised to avoid 19 of the 24 beaches in Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole. We've just heard from Helen, the nurse, mental health nurse, who's driven all the way from Newcastle to Bournemouth and has had to turn back, and is driving 6 hours home. So look, take that advice, don't head to Bournemouth. Let's head to the sports desk. Katie's here and some better news for England in the cricket, Kate.
Yes, there certainly is. Let's go straight there, shall we, to Old Trafford for day 3 of the first test between England and Pakistan, as there's been a wicket. Ellie Aldred.
Yes, it's the second one for Chris Wokes in this inning. Azhar Ali, the Pakistan captain, is the man out. Plum LBW for 18, didn't bother to review it. He knew that he was out. That was 63 for 4 at that point. So Asad Shafiq has been joined by Mohammad Rizwan, the wicket-keeper. And really, Pakistan are well, I'm not going to say they're struggling, but it's going to be quite an interesting game. England have played themselves back into this game with the 4 wickets that they've taken, 2 for Wokes, 1 for Best, 1 for Broad. Earlier on, they were all out for 219, England, with Ollie Pope top scoring with 62. So that first innings lead of 107 by Pakistan looked substantial, but the lead is now 171 runs and they've got 6 wickets still standing. So for the first time today, I think we can say that this game is quite intriguingly poised. Pakistan currently 66 for 4 and the lead is 173.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Ellie. And ball by ball commentary continues with the Test Match special team. That's over on Sports Extra Highlights. I'll remember on BBC 2. That's at 7 o'clock tonight. Meanwhile, the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, which was due to take place in New Zealand next year, has been pushed back to February 2022 because of the coronavirus pandemic. The Men's T20 World Cup, which was meant to be held in Australia this autumn, has also been moved to 2022. Now, the Champions League continues tonight with Manchester City hosting Real Madrid for their last 16 second leg. City go into the game with a 2-1 lead, and Pep says they know they need to improve defence if they want to win Europe's elite competition.
Making mistakes like in this competition punish you a lot. And if we want to make a step forward as a team to be close to win this competition, we have to be better in this area.
The Professional Footballers Association says it's disappointed that Leagues 1 and 2 have voted in favour of a salary cap. It will start immediately with League 1 clubs able to spend
lead coming into the final round, but play has been suspended for the moment.
And in terms of in San Francisco, the second round of the PGA Championship continues.
Yeah, and it is China's Li Hao